Greetings and salutations, fans and family, friends and neighbors, lovers and losers of all kinds. I'm Admiral Oliver Franklin Doom, and I would like to welcome you to Just an Observation. Today on Just an Observation, I want to focus on a radio program that is a police drama, and it's based on true stories, although the names have been changed. I'm going to let the actual announcer describe the show for you. But it's called Whitehall 1212, and this gentleman will explain everything.
Whitehall 1212.
This is Scotland Yard.
For the first time in history, Scotland Yard opens its official files to bring you the authentic stories of some of its most baffling cases.
These are the true stories, the unvarnished facts, just as they occurred, reenacted for you by an all-British cast. Only the names of the participants have for obvious reasons been changed. The stories are presented with the full cooperation of Scotland Yard.
Research on Whitehall 1212 is prepared by Percy Hoskins, chief crime reporter for the London Daily Express. The stories for radio are written and directed by Willis Cooper.
Now, today's episode is going to focus on an American who commits a crime in England. Now, this one was, I believe, the only version of this particular episode. However, there were two Scotland Yard-based series running around the same time. One was a syndicated series starring Orson Welles, and it was called The Black Museum, and the other was Whitehall 1212, which was broadcast on NBC. And most of the time, these two shared stories. However, the names were different in each of them because the names were changed to protect the innocent.
Here is the story of Scotland Yard File 133123. This is Chief Superintendent John Davidson of Scotland Yard.
Good afternoon. The Black Museum contains articles which have figured to a greater or less degree in several thousands of cases, a great many of them involving the crime of murder. Case number 133123 occurred, believe it or not, a few years before my time here at the Yard, the year 1910, 42 years ago. However, it is still remembered as one of the most unusual cases in the Yard's history, and I think you'll shortly discover why. In fact, despite the disguised names, you yourself may recall the case if you're old enough.
The man who put me onto it was a wretched busybody, and I didn't like him very well. I sat scribbling aimless words on a block of yellow paper as he talked.
I fully realize it's none of my business, Inspector Waters, but I feel it my duty as a British subject, sir.
Go on, please.
In my opinion, he's murdered her.
Oh, come now.
Bear with me, Inspector.
I'm listening, sir.
First of all, reflect that they have been on bad terms for a long time.
So you said.
So he had plenty of, motive?
Motive, yes.
So you see.
I'm afraid I don't, sir.
Eh?
I mean, what you have is the information the man has given you, that his wife was visiting relatives in America.
In Los Angeles.
Los Angeles, he says, and that his wife died there and was buried in Los Angeles.
That is true.
Well?
I believe he murdered her and hid the body.
But, my dear sir, there's no evidence that he...
Pardon me, sir, there is.
What?
Well, first, the evidence that he requested her friends, including myself, to send no cards, no floral offerings whatever to him in memory of his wife.
Well, that...
is, I think you will agree, a little strange.
Yes, but...
And secundo, the fact that I've lately returned from America myself.
And?
I interrupted my business trip, sir, at Los Angeles to call upon her mother and offer my condolences.
Well, go on, please.
I was informed by her mother, sir, that the woman had not been in Los Angeles for more than 4 years.
Well, I guess you've caught me, Inspector. My wife isn't dead.
Oh?
She left me. She ran away from me.
Where did she go?
I don't know. She just piled a few clothes in a bag and walked out. Blacked my eye first. We had a terrible quarrel. Just terrible. She called me the most awful names. And she insulted Miss LeBaron frightfully. It was dreadful. Then she rushed out of here, shouting for a cab to take her to Charing Cross.
Well?
That's the reason I gave out the story she'd gone to America, Inspector. That's why I gave out that she died there.
How do you know she is not coming back?
She'll never come back. Really, Inspector, a doctor has to have some dignity. I don't want people to know my wife has run out on me.
I'm afraid you may find, though, if you don't mind my saying so, that you've been quite unwise.
I didn't ask your advice, sir.
I'm not giving it. If your wife returns and finds you've given away her clothing...
I tell you, I know she's not coming back.
The gas jet in my room at Scotland Yard burned late that night. I was not currently on an assignment, so I had a good deal of time to spare, and I found myself curiously caught up by the dusty little doctor's unique formula for avoiding scandal. He'd stored up a large order of scandal for himself, I thought, when and if his wife should return. But he was so certain that she would not. I took a four-wheeler to Camden Town at once. There was no answer when I knocked on the door of number 39, Hilldrop Crescent. Dr. Edward Walton Harvey was gone, and with him Elaine LeBaron. Information at once was transmitted to the Belgian police. It was a mystery to us how they could have left England, but this was too good a lead to be ignored. Later in the day, information reached us from the police at Folkestone that a man answering to the description of Harvey had been seen by a railway porter, and again by a news vendor who recognized him from his photograph in a newspaper. Elaine LeBaron had not been seen.
Experience of Captain Horatio Sowerby, RNVR, master of the steamship Claverhouse, Antwerp for Halifax, Nova Scotia.
As we moved down the river Scheldt to the sea on the start of our voyage, I stood on the bridge with the pilot. Few passengers were on deck, it being a very dismal day. However, as I glanced down at the bows, I observed two men standing on the main deck of the forepeak. My attention was directed to them by the fact that they seemed to be holding hands. I was astonished to observe that the younger one placed his arm about the other in a most affectionate fashion. I'll have a little talk with those two, I said to myself. They walked back to their cabin, arm in arm, as I watched them, unobserved.
No good. They'll be in America in a few days, and then who can tell where they'll go? We've been had.
Not necessarily.
How do you mean?
When did they leave?
Day before yesterday.
You're on the telephone here, aren't you?
What good does that do?
What ship are they on?
Claverhouse for Halifax. Where are you going?
Listen. Are you there? Hello. Are you there? I say, this is Henry Bernard here. Now listen to me carefully. I want you to find out for me at once whether there's any ship sailing for Halifax that will arrive there before a ship called the, what's the name, Waters?
Claverhouse.
A ship called the Claverhouse just sailed from Antwerp gets there. Right, do you understand?
That you, Stewart?
It's, Captain Sowerby, sir.
Just a minute, please. Come in. Well, we made it after all, didn't...
Well?
That isn't them.
I recognize you, Inspector Waters. Oh, stop it, darling. We didn't make it after all. I don't know how you got here, Inspector, but I'm ready, I guess, eh?
And that was our look at Whitehall 1212 and the episode Case of the Late Mrs. Harvey. I hope you enjoyed this, and thank you for watching Just an Observation. I'm your host, Admiral Oliver Franklin Doom, hoping that you will always live life as if awesome is a downgrade. Thank you very much.